I am Dr. Sergio Velastin. I'm a reader here at Kingston University. I am the course leader for the MSc in Embedded Systems, and I also direct the Digital Imaging Research Center. I am originally from Chile in South America, which is the longest country in the world, and other extreme things. I came to England when I was fairly young, so my university education was all done in here. And after a number of different jobs, my original degree was in electronics, and I gradually moved into computing. And I ended up in Kingston because it had a growing team in digital imaging, which is what I specialized on. The MSc in Embedded Systems is a course that combines a little bit of electronics, a little bit of computing, a little bit of robotics, and so on and so forth. So its core modules are effectively divided into two. And one of them is what one might say an engineering field to it. So there's control systems, there's mechatronics. And on the other hand, there's a strongly computing system but applied to embedded systems, specifically digital signal processing. So it's the type of device that you might find nowadays on a set-top box or on a mobile phone. So we're looking at how computing is related to that type of environment. And then people have a number of options, mostly to do with programming, robotics, automotive electronics, and so on. The interesting thing about the embedded systems course is that it takes a number of experts from different areas who have their own background on electronics, engineering, computing, and so on. The course is particularly well suited to people who either have an electronics background and want to move more towards software applied to electronic devices, or in fact the other way around, where people have a computing background and want to see their skills being now emphasized in terms of electronic systems where their software can be doing something interesting in the real world. I think that we have been going through a very interesting change in the way that we are surrounded by technology. Perhaps 20, 30 years ago we had computers on one hand. People are old enough to remember the large big frames and so on and so forth. And then we have electronics, which was very specialized and very rigid in what they did. And what we're now seeing is and we are totally surrounded by them. If you think of mobile phones and other gadgets that we use all the time, even your washing machine and your fridge, they're in fact a combination of electronics, so electronic devices, but also a lot of computing, which is almost hidden from us because we think of a computer as a keyboard, a mouse, and a screen, but in fact it's a bit more than that. It's basically processing which goes on. And we're now being able to make a device much more responsive to what needs we might have as consumers or users, etc., etc. So I think that for that I feel very enthusiastic about the topic because I come from a traditional background of electronic engineering, of circuits, which I then changed with the idea of using computing to make the electronics do more interesting things. So just to give you an idea of the flavor of the type of work that people do, they might be doing a project on microcontrollers, which are very small little computers, very basic computers, for instance, that can be controlling a traffic light, or that might be associated with the engine management system in your car, or it could be a small robot. It could be in a team of people who are playing with robots and football and so on and so forth. So all of that computing that we normally take for granted in terms of web browsing, etc., is being all focused onto something which is very specific and on a very small footprint, which is the way that things are going. One of the things that we are worried about as a society is to have things which are as low power as possible so that we don't use too much energy. And embedded systems is essentially a lot of that. It's about putting everything into a very low power system. My very first impression of Kingston when I came here for the first time, my first day of work, was that here there was a very friendly environment as opposed to a very hectic, high pressure environment. That was my overall impression. And that was to do with the people that I met, not only the academics, but also the people who work to support all the academic work, including the porters. They all seem to be very approachable. And as I lived in Kingston a bit longer, I liked it more because although it is in London, it has also a feeling of being a quiet place where to live. So you can have the best of both worlds. You can be in a quiet market town, which what Kingston is, with a lot of history behind it, while at the same time you're just a very short ride away from central London, which is the center of everything and where there's lots of things to do. So I like Kingston as a place from that point of view. I like the university because it's a vibrant, very varied university with lots of people from different countries and of all ages. So it's always something that personally attracts me very much to being an academic. You're always looking at new people. We're very much of the master and research levels, but as a field leader in the MSc Embedded Systems course, I know everyone personally, so that and I make a point of doing that, so that I have a lot of interaction with them, not necessarily on a daily basis, but on a regular basis. And of course, when people are doing their projects, many people do the projects either with me or with my colleagues, whom I know very, very closely. And it's always good to see how someone develops from an original idea, which no one is absolutely sure is going to work, to something that has proven to work.